Frank Sizadit coming to you live from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuran. Let's take a look at the headlines.
That Sabonis is not expected to miss.
President Buhari writes National Assembly seeks 2022 budget implementation 119.5 billion naira. Plus, Trump tax returns to be released by House panel on Friday. We'll bring you details of these stories and more in a moment.
The good news is that Sabonis is not.
In the news this afternoon with a report that President Muhammadu Buhari has written to the National Assembly to extend the date for the implementation of the 2022 budget to March 31st, 2022. The letter was read at the plenary by the Senate President Ahmed Lawan. Budget of 17.31 trillion naira for the fiscal year 2022, following Buhari's earlier request to make adjustment to the 2022 budget, citing the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war on the country's economy, exactly a result of the impact of the flood on the roads across the country. Meanwhile, with barely 8 weeks to the 2023 presidential elections, President Muhammadu Buhari today warned security agencies to eschew behaviors that could compromise the democratic process. He said those involved in handling sensitive election materials must uphold a high sense of professionalism. Garba Shehu. Buhari said this when he inaugurated the Defense Intelligence Agency's newly acquired estate in Idukamo, Abuja. In another development, the federal government goods. The scheme, as it said, a presidential committee on salaries is currently reviewing salaries with a plan to announce its decision in the early months of 2023. Minister of Labour and Employment Chris Ngiga disclosed this to State House correspondent after a closed-up meeting with the President Muhammadu Buhari at the Aso Rock Villa, Abuja. While citing throwbacks to the ASU strike, industrial action by sister unions, and strikes by medical practitioners earlier in the year, legislative matters where the Senate today passed the 2022 supplementary budget of 819.5 billion naira. President Muhammadu Buhari sought the passage of supplementary budget to be financed through additional domestic borrowing. The supplementary budget is to address food security following devastating floods across the country, as well as damages to road infrastructure and water sector. The supplementary budget is to be funded by. So from the legislature, House of Representatives today passed a resolution to investigate the circumstances that led to the killing of barrister Bolanle Rahim by a police officer in Lagos. A lawyer was shot dead by a trigger-happy police officer in the Ajah area of Lagos State on Christmas Day. Concerned Nigerians have continued to retreat. At today's plenary, the House of Representatives resolved to ensure that the officer involved is prosecuted with a view to getting justice and stopping officers from taking alcohol while on duty. Reports say the House earlier observed a minute's silence for the deceased. And meanwhile, the motion for the resolution was moved by a member representing Etiosa. In politics, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has promised to address insecurity and poverty when elected as president in 2023. Obi said this while addressing reporters on the sidelines of the party's strategic meeting in Abuja. He bemoaned the high rate of insecurity and poverty and promised to address the challenges Nigerians are suffering. There is a need to address the challenges. The presidential candidate also praised the creative and can-do spirit of Nigerian youths, adding that they can compete favorably with their contemporaries outside.
Insecurity is #1 thing that is impacting Nigerian economic growth today. And you need to deal with it architecture. Ensure that it is put in place aggressively, including having multi-level policing, federal.
Judicial matters, the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Lagos State, Moyo Onibanjo, has said the suspect in the alleged extrajudicial killings of a Lagos-based lawyer, Bolanle Rahim, will be charged to court soon. He made this known when he visited the victim's family in the Ajah area of the state. Recall that Rahim was shot dead on Christmas Day by a trigger-happy Assistant Superintendent of Police, Drambi Vandi. He must be swiftly prosecuted and justice be immediately served. This is as the Inspector General of Police, IGP Usman Baba, has described the incident as unfortunate and sad and ordered a speedy investigation and prosecution of the officers responsible for the ugly and unprofessional act. Away from that, the National Drugs Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, says it has arrested 18,940 suspects for Buba Marwa said this at an award presentation in Yola. Reports say the award was conferred on him by the Adamawa Honors Society in recognition of his outstanding service to the nation. He said the agency secured 3,324 convictions, seized 5.4 kilograms of different controlled drugs, narcotic substances, and rehabilitated 3,326 drugs. And back here, some residents of Akwa Ibom State have lamented the high cost of transportation, saying the situation has dampened the spirit of the Christmas and New Year celebrations. Speaking with Spectrum Television, the people also lamented the cost of food items and other things caused by the hike in fuel prices. Her correspondent completes the report.
The hike in the price of during the holidays, others were selling between 270 to 350 naira a litre. This has invariably raised the cost of transportation, not just within Uyo metropolis, but for people traveling to spend the festivities with their families. A lot of residents who spoke with Spectrum Television lamented how the high cost of transportation, coupled with low purchasing power, has marred their celebrations this year.
I noticed that things are very expensive here. The economic is so like that. It's more cheaper. I noticed that things are very cheaper in northern side than our eastern side. Before this Christmas, they said that the fuel have increased. Now we have been entering 50 naira from Ikote Benu to this plaza. Now it's 100 naira.
Things are very, very high. They say 50 naira, now there's no more 50 naira transfer.
Travelers and motorists are not left out. According to them, the passengers are finding it difficult to pay the stipulated amount per drop, and this in turn affects their source of livelihood.
The fuel price is too high. We are buying fuel 280 naira a litre. It's affecting our business. So please, I want the government to look into it. The passengers are not complying. There's so much lamenting about it. So the government should look into it. The passengers are not complying this.
When fuel was between the rate of 165 and 170 per drop, but by the time the fuel was increased from 170 to 200, we couldn't bear that again. We had to hike our own fare to 100 naira per drop, though depending on the distance. But now that the fuel is rose to convey people at 50 naira per drop anymore, even at that.
Although it is a season to be merry, the merriment for some have been marred by the economic realities in the country. They are calling on the government to sort out the issues causing the increase in the price of petrol, which will invariably reduce the cost of transportation and other commodities, especially during this festivity.
Ordered the preventive seizure of the assets of Isabel dos Santos, daughter of former President Eduardo dos Santos, making it the second seizure of Isabel dos Santos' assets in Angola since 2019. The court order covers 100% of the shares of the company Embal Vidro, of which the defendant is a beneficial owner, as well as the balances of all bank accounts owned or co-owned by the daughter of the former Angolan president. According to the Supreme Court, the businesswoman damaged the Angolan state with over participation in companies and money laundering. Still in Africa, the Gambia has established an investigative panel following the arrest of alleged coup plotters. The panel will have 30 days to report back on last week's coup attempt. According to an official statement, the 11-member inquiry group sworn in includes members from the Justice Ministry, the Office of National Security, military forces, the police, and intelligence agencies. They are helping unearth allegations of plans to overthrow President Adama Barrow's government that was elected to a second term in 2021. Since 2020, military takeovers in Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso have freed a rapist after he married his victim in a settlement brokered by a council of elders in the northwest of the country. 25-year-old Dalat Kant was sentenced in May to life imprisonment by a lower court in Borno district of Keba Pakhtunkhwa province of raping a deaf woman, agreed by the rape survivor's family. Khan was arrested after his unmarried victim delivered a baby earlier this year, and a paternity test proved he was the child's biological father. The decision has outraged rights activists who say it legitimizes sexual violence against women in a country where a majority of rape goes unreported. A plaintiff who resigned from the post 9 years ago is very sick after a deterioration in his health. During his general audience at the Vatican today, Francis called for a special prayer for Pope Benedict. Also, a Vatican spokesperson later confirmed that in the last few hours, there has been a deterioration due to the advancement of Benedict's age. Recall that in 2013, Pope Benedict XVI shocked the world by making the almost unprecedented decision to resign from his position, citing advanced age. Still on the foreign scene, the House Ways and Means Committee on Friday morning during a House pro forma session. There will also be a formal announcement from the committee on Friday. The highly anticipated release comes after the panel last week asserted that the IRS failed to properly audit the former president's taxes while he was in office. The release of Trump's tax returns marks the conclusion of a nearly 4-year legal battle House Democrats waged against the former president after they took control of the House in 2019. Vic and Nadal set to kickstart bid for 2023 supremacy in Australia. Just stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. We move now to business, where the Standards Organization of Nigeria, SAN, has sensitized manufacturers, consumers, and other stakeholders to the need for quality and standards in goods locally manufactured or imported. The agency said the program was in line with its mandate and vision of ensuring that all goods, both locally manufactured or imported, conform to the relevant industrial standards. Speaking on an event in Asaba, Delta State, the Senior Special Assistant to the Director General of SAN, Emeka Duru, pointed out that SAN organized a sensitized economy. Reports say the forum was an avenue for SAN and the stakeholders to brainstorm on areas they can be of assistance to enable them to carry out their businesses positively by following the laid-down standardization procedures. Partnered with the National Orientation Agency to drive awareness among Nigerians as it begins its pilot identity enrollment in the Federal Capital Territory and 6 states across the geopolitical zones in February next year. This was according to a statement by the goal of increasing the number of persons in the countries having a NIN and upgrading infrastructure at the National Identity Management Commission so as to be able to enroll in marginalized and in health, Nigeria Center for Disease Control and CDC has said a total of 583 deaths have been recorded from cholera, while 23,550. The NDDC disclosed this in its latest weekly cholera situation report for weeks 44 through 47. The report revealed that the suspected is an endemic and seasonal disease occurring annually, mostly during the rainy season, and more often in areas with poor sanitation. Meanwhile, following reported cases of the resurgence of Ebola and other communicable diseases, the Federal Capital Territory Administration has tightened its disease surveillance system in order to minimize its impact on the territory. The director of the FCT Public Health Department, Dr. Sadiq Abdul Rahman, reports say staff of the Epidemiological Division of the Public Health Department have been placed on red alert under the supervision of the FCT Health and Human Services Secretariat. In sports, Nigeria international Victor Osimhen is leading the number of goals scored by strikers from open play in the Italian Serie A for the year 2022. Osimhen has been exceptional since he arrived in the Italian league from French league side Lille in 2020 and has turned into a prolific striker for Napoli. Reports say with 18 goals, the highest by any player in the Serie A in 2022, the 23-year-old leads the list of highest goals scored in the year on the review. Still in sports, Sydney, respectively, with the superstar veterans and great rivals eyeing up yet more Australian Open. Gloria Memorabon and Djokovic is a 9-time winner. Djokovic returns down under from the first time since being sensationally detained and then deported ahead of the 2022 Australian Open because of his refusal to get vaccinated for COVID-19, making him miss 2 majors because of his vaccine status. According to reports, 18 countries will compete in the event across 11 days from Thursday, with Brisbane, Perth, and Sydney hosting group games in a round-robin format. On our entertainment news, the grandson of reggae legend Bob Marley and son of Grammy Award-winning musician Stephen Marley and a well-regarded reggae artist, Jamaican-born Marley, confirmed his death but did not give a cause. However, reports say he was found in a vehicle after suffering an asthma attack. Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness said in a tweet that Marley's passing is a huge loss to the music as well as the Jamaican people, and condoled to the Marley's parents, Stephen and Kerry Marley. The late icon released his debut album, Comfortable, in 2016, following it up with Eternal in 2021. He is reportedly survived by a wife and daughter. Still on entertainment, one half of the P-Square musical duo, Paul Okoye, also known as Rude Boy, has shared more details about his marriage to his ex-wife, Anita. Recall that the singer made headlines when he proudly showcased his new woman, identified as Ivy Ifoma, as they marked their 1 year. He had been single for 4 years before he met Ifoma Okoye, and his ex-wife, Anita, had been married for 8 years when she filed for divorce, alleging a number of problems. They were recently granted a divorce by a high court in Abuja. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. You've been watching Spectrum News at 4. I am Francis Edit.